Hello, and welcome to the Hot Nerd Network, The First Word. I'm Phillip Parker,
PV Parker.
and we're here to do a Ahsoka recap episode 5. So, Phil, we've been doing this now for a while, and I like you so excited. Last episode you were so excited, so I'm gonna give you the opportunity. Just give the audience a quick recap of episode 5. Which what did you see?
Uh, Anakin, Anakin, and Anakin. That's all I saw. That's all I saw. I really cared about. Everything else was. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Anakin, 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 and Ahsoka the White. That's all I saw. That's all I needed to see. That's all I needed to see.
Ahsoka the White, yeah.
So, but so this I guess this episode will be great. If we do. So I'll give you the recap because I think that if I do it, it's going to break down into each episode or each part of the episode that I like, and I probably will go over our time. So, won't you go ahead and start?
Well, just it was kind of is really for me. It was a longer episode. And again, I love how Disney does this. Excuse me.
Hmm.
It was a longer episode, but
Okay.
it was short in what they were trying to me, what they were trying to relay in the story. So the
Hmm.
recap for me is last episode 4. We
Hmm.
saw Ahsoka in the world between worlds, and when she turned
Hmm.
around, she saw Anakin. He said, "Hello, Snips," and a couple of things he said. Now we know. Well, I'll let that go to later on. We talk. So then Anakin says, "Well, you still haven't learned your lessons. Let me teach you some lessons. You still have a lot to learn." And they do a duel, a sword battle, laser battle, and a lightsaber battle, excuse me. And it goes throughout Ahsoka's history as a Jedi from when she was a young Padawan all the way to
Hmm.
now. And at the same time is Jason, which is Hera's son. He is force sensitive, and he's extremely force sensitive because he at the end of episode 4 he said quote unquote I had a bad feeling, and we heard that
Hmm.
throughout the throughout the Star Wars lore. And then we see he is force sensitive where Ahsoka is. And so he gets Hera to start searching for her. He tells her, you gotta get closer to the water. Again, we keep going back and forth between the battle between Anakin and Ahsoka, and we keep going back to them as in Hera and the rest of the wing fighters looking for Ahsoka. After Ahsoka gets information from Anakin, and we see that she's learning that she's not she's it's kind of the same repetitive thing not over and over again, but it harkens back to when back in Dagobah, when Yoda was teaching Luke, and he
Hmm.
said, "You got to go through that tree." And Luke says, "What's in the tree?" He said, "Whatever you bring into that." Meaning is all your fears, everything you bring to the battle, everything you bring into that scene or that atmosphere is what you got to have to deal with. So it's to me, I got the impression that she, as Ahsoka, was bringing in all her guilt about Anakin, and she was dealing with it in the world between worlds. And just as you said, before episode 5, she was Gandalf the Grey. Now,
Hmm.
after she comes out of the world between worlds and they save her or they rescue her, she's now all in white, which then gives you a prelude. If you know anything about the Lord of the Rings series, Gandalf the White was way more stronger, way more powerful than Gandalf the Grey, and you kind of saw that in Ahsoka's t- uh, her demeanor, because she was more uplifting, smiling more. She wasn't so as you again. I was looking back on some other episodes where you were like, it was too much of this pondering, her
Hmm.
sulking a little bit. So that wasn't there. So she has an epiphany because
Hmm.
again, they as in Star Wars or Dave Filoni had got us to the point where the Jedi knew about the pergolas and their ability to travel warp speed without engines. They had this knowledge before, It was just kind of lost. So she has the epiphany that she said, I know how to find Ren. And so she does the Jedi mind thing with the well, and the bigger well opens the mouth, and then they fly inside, and boom, they go off, and we would assume to find and to get close to Thrawn and Seren and that whole people, all that together.
Hmm.
Is that a good recap, or did I miss anything?
You hit it spot on. Hit it spot on.
Do you want to add anything to that?
So there, I do,
Go
but
ahead.
I want to get into okay. So with the recap, one thing I love about this episode. So we're going to also get into how many lightsabers we're going to do. But one thing I love about this episode is it was very emotional driven.
Yes.
So if a part of the recap for me, watching this is how Ahsoka takes us on her emotions throughout the Force as well.
Yeah.
Because when we watched it, when she was reflecting, or uh, that the scene where Anakin takes her through the different battles,
Hmm.
um, they didn't when they fought. It wasn't really a Force sensitive fight. It
Right.
was a lightsaber fight.
Yes.
And I think that that's paramount. But it shows us the different emotions over the episode of Ahsoka,
Right.
because the we've seen the manifestation of Vader. How he started out as young Anakin, and then he grew to Vader, but he eventually returned back to uh,
Anakin. Hmm.
Anakin. So I see that Ahsoka, kind of trending the same way.
Right.
But just how we see the empathy, we see the rage, we see the focus. It's just we see a lot of different emotions from Ahsoka throughout the episode, and I think it was beautifully placed in each phase. So
Yeah.
yeah, and it goes along perfectly, parallel to the actual, what's going on.
Yeah.
It's just that in real time we're seeing Ahsoka's feelings as we're going on.
Yes. Okay. That I, like I said, that was definitely. I like that perspective on that. Okay, so the next one up is your favorite moment. So it sounds like you would this kind of leads into your favorite moments in episode 5. What are your favorite moments? Or moment?
So my I think my favorite moment is is actually when Ahsoka wasn't really getting the true message. So Anakin kicked her back to the world between worlds and said, we're going to have to do this another way.
Yeah.
Uh, and you can see his personality split between Vader and Anakin, and I thought that was just so badass. Like that was a badass just glimpse. Um, and we're going to get into that, but like I said, that was my initial favorite scene. That's my
Okay.
favorite in a glimpse. That when he kicked her back and you see him walking, his lightsaber change from the blue to the
The red.
red.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought that was, and then you could see, his eyes were orange, or the hue of orange. I thought that was pretty badass.
Okay. Well, that is an interesting one. Now, my favorite one, and I think I've kind of developed this um liking or this affinity towards the droid, Hu Yang.
Mm,
And so during this episode, while Hera and they were looking for Ahsoka and Sabine, Hu Yang has Sabine's Mandalorian helmet, and he looks down at it
mm,
and he says, "They don't." He said they weren't together. I told
mhm,
them not. They never listened. They never listened. And I'm sorry. I'm a dad, and and you want your people who you're teaching to
mhm,
learn your lessons so that they don't have to go through it. But what Hu Yang as a robot probably doesn't understand, don't understand that I understand as a father, is that you can give your Padawans all the information, but it's their journey. But to me, I felt like a dad. I felt the dad weight of Hu Yang when he looked at Ahsoka's helmet. I mean, excuse me, not Ahsoka.
Sabine.
Sabine's helmet, and shook
Hmm.
his head like they never listen. They never listen. So
Hmm.
I like Hu Yang because he embodies the best of all the droids. Because in Star Wars, droids are important, and
Yes,
his emotions come through a lot
yes.
in these episodes. So that was my favorite moment.
I don't know about you. I think of Hu Yang and um, Chopper, Jason's droid. I think of them. They kind of remind me of C-3PO and R2-D2.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, definitely, definitely,
They
definitely.
kind of give
Well,
me this.
go ahead.
No, I get the same kind of feelings because you know, uh, no, C3PO. I think he started out as a got a Empire droid that got converted, correct? And he got his memory wiped.
Well, he always CP always. So we find out in Rebels that one of the time Anakin got in trouble because anytime you take a droid on a mission, they get their memory wiped. But he never did that with R2D2.
Right.
Um, let's see here. Well, before we go on favorite moments, maybe I got a favorite moment part two is again to go back to Hu Yang because when Ahsoka and Hera wanted to talk, they say, "Hey, Jason, why don't you go look at the ship?" He's, "Well, I've seen the ship before," and Ahsoka says, "Well, you haven't seen a Jedi ship." And so as they were walking to the ship, they as in Jason and Hu Yang, he said, "So you train Jedi?" He says, "Yes." "Will you train me?" "No." I like that. I love Hu Yang. Hu Yang is my man. So
Hu Yang is the man. Hu Yang is the man. Hu Yang is the
so
man.
our next portion of the podcast is the impressions and reactions. So I'll take the first impressions and reactions. You know, again, I think I said the last episode that I understood this episode was slowed down a little bit,
Hmm.
but it
Hmm.
didn't in a sense of it was still action packed because there was tons of fighting. My impressions was knowing I watched the Clone Wars multiple times, and when they show the live body of the Clone Wars, which was animated, they were spot on. Even from Anakin's shoulder pads, he kind of had these squared off shoulders. Pad when in the Clone Wars, and even Ahsoka, her standing, the young Ahsoka, where she was standing was reminiscent to Ahsoka's stance when she was in the animated series. So my first impressions and reactions to this episode was it was more of the answering questions. Again, we're getting more of the questions being answered. My reaction to it, I like this episode. I'm not going to get into a lightsaber ratings, but that's my first impressions and reaction. What about you? What are your impressions and reactions of episode two? I mean, excuse me, episode five.
So with this episode, my reaction to it, like I said, it's beautifully done.
Yeah,
Um, I think there's an overall message to in this episode, um, and and I guess we'll get into that later. But we also see how we we didn't. Okay, so the last we saw of Anakin, we didn't know why he was there. We didn't know what
yeah,
he was there for,
yeah,
um, and we find out that he's there to complete Ahsoka's training.
yes,
And um, I think this was done on two fronts because again, we said that, well, we've noticed that throughout this whole episode, there was very little, now that I think about it, very little force wielding. It
mm-hmm,
was all based on things that Ahsoka is good at,
mm-hmm,
with her saber, but also what Vader's good at.
mm-hmm,
And by Vader, I mean Anakin. What Anakin's good at. Anakin was known for his lightsaber. He was one of the the best. I think Obi-Wan, yes, that's a debate for another day, but he was one of the best lightsaber people until Ahsoka came around. Ahsoka
Yeah.
is deadly. So um, just seeing how those two interacted, for me over that period of time, it left an impression that not only did Anakin still have work to do with Ahsoka, but
Hmm.
Ahsoka, she couldn't master being a master because she is technically still a Padawan. She didn't
Yeah.
never finish her training.
Her training. Yeah.
So this episode took you on that, I think, that last bit of the trials that she never got to complete.
Yeah. That's a good point, because she didn't. And again, Anakin spoke to that. And it actually now it makes sense of that you're here sooner than I thought. Now, see,
Mm,
me a little bit also knowing that Dave Filoni really, really, really like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. That whole
mm-hmm,
story, not trilogy, but it's more than that. But and the Gandalf, Gandalf actually died,
mm-hmm,
and before he became Gandalf the White. And
right.
in a sense, Ahsoka died. She
Yes.
actually died, and we're talking right now. I'm just going to go right into the plot analysis because she actually died, and so
Mm-hmm,
and she's reborn white. But that's where when to me I was like, why does Anakin say, "I didn't expect you here that soon"? And she's I don't remember, and she said, "Oh, Balin." He says, "Oh, so you do remember?" He said, "Well, you lost." She said, "I don't know if I really lost." He said, "Trust me, you lost." Like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and so the plot on this one was to me the plot analysis for me it was the rebirth of Ahsoka because now she's got her she learned the lessons and that because I think she was carrying the guilt
yes.
of Anakin turning to Vader because she left. Let's remember she left the Jedi Order, and shortly thereafter, well, not shortly, but a couple of years later, she Vader Anna becomes Vader, and I know she says, "But for if I stayed with him, I could have been the anchor that would not have allowed him to go onto the dark side." And so that guilt to me, she's been carrying that guilt, and I bet that's why. And again, we're going to get into it, but I'm going to make I guess we're going to get into theories and predictions later, so I'll wait for that. But do you have any more to add about the plot analysis?
So I wanted to throw it out there. Um, I think okay, so it kind of leaks into thoughts and predictions, but I I do believe that she had a moment of reckoning where she had to address her previous, not mistakes, but the things that were done previously. She had to face those things. Um, I think we are under the assumption that because we saw Anakin,
Yeah.
that it was, in the world between worlds. But then I have to go see. This is why I think our audience, if you haven't, I, my dad has told me to do it, so I'm with you guys. You have to go back and watch the animated series. You have to watch all this stuff in order
Yeah.
because there's so much backstory of Star Trek Rebels and Anakin's story that I think leads into this moment.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't think that it's as cut and dry as it seems. I don't think in actuality that she even, I don't think that that was Anakin. I
No,
don't
I
think
don't. I
that it was
agree.
his,
I agree.
I don't think that was his Force ghost. I don't even believe that that was the world between worlds that she was put in,
Oh,
that she went to. I don't think that at all. I think that a part of the trials because um, I remember Obi-Wan asked Qui-Gon all the way back in, oh gosh, was this the second Star Wars? But he asked him about the trials. And the trials, when I first when I first saw it, I thought the trials were something that was like a battle that took place,
Yeah.
or something of a spectacle in front of the whole Jedi Order. But I think the trials is something mental that you
Hmm.
go through to prove your mastery. This is how you prove that you're ready to become a master. And I think that's what happened to Ahsoka. I think that she traveled within herself. But when she did so, I think the world between worlds is that place,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, it does make
Um,
sense because it looked a little bit different when Ezra was there, but she had that in her subconscious to construct that world between worlds. Okay, I see. I get your point.
so I think that the episode was basically to complete Ahsoka's training, but then it got me to thinking, well, what is the end all be all? Because if you're not, if her grand scheme is to stop Grand Admiral Thrawn, then in all actuality, she's picking a side. You know, she's fighting against starting this war. So it's I think there's still a little bit of meat hanging on this bone that we just not seeing. I think they're setting up something else for Ahsoka's character, because you just don't give her the mantle of Ahsoka the White and not have something that we're leading toward.
Yeah, yeah. I think that to piggyback off of that, I know she was trying to get the map when she was fighting Balin,
Mhm,
but you said this last episode that every time she was besting him is when she got angry.
mhm,
And I think now with the because Obi-Wan had reason Anakin never remember doing the Obi-Wan series. He had a flashback when he was teaching Anakin, and
mhm,
Anakin had to defeat the master, and Anakin's aggression was always his downfall. And Obi-Wan
mhm,
kept telling him, I don't care how good you are with that sword, until you control that aggression, I will always beat you pretty much. And to me, I think this was Ahsoka's, like you said, her trial to let
mhm,
go and not
mhm,
tap into the dark side so much. And you can
mhm,
still, because I think now she's and Ahsoka the White. I
mhm,
think now she's ready to beat Balin. She's ready to defeat Balin.
mhm.
So I'll let you take the next thing. And again, we're rolling in. It's so fluid. Um, Character highlight. What are
Mhm.
your character highlights? If you pick, you don't have to pick one if you have multiple highlights. But let me hear your character highlights for episode 5.
Um, so I actually, my character highlight is, you actually kind of stole my thunder to start off with. It's Hu Yang. We I love how Hu Yang, he starts. I think with Sabine, Sabine started her journey earlier, but she took a hiatus from her journey and she's starting up again. But I love how Hu Yang has integrated himself with younglings.
Hmm.
And, you know, he's been a droid that's been around, you know, the
Centuries.
Jedi for centuries, for
Hmm.
centuries. And he always finds his way, you know, even he was tasked with being Ahsoka's droid, but he always finds his way back to younglings. And I love that. I
Yeah.
love how, um, because that seems to be his natural order of things. When we saw, well, when Hu Yang is in the Rebels, he is the one that creates the lightsabers for the younglings,
Hmm.
and just that to have that knowledge of Rebels, and then to bring that forth, you know, way later with Ahsoka, and you know he was there throughout that whole process as well. So it's just I love how Hu Yang seems to be not only a resource for Jedi history, but he has his own personality that he puts into
Definitely.
it as well.
Definitely.
So yeah, Hu Yang is my character highlight.
This episode, I like Anakin. He had a couple of clutch phrases, but his expressions, because when they were in one of Ahsoka's flashbacks,
Mhm.
the young Ahsoka said no one had understood or appreciated how gifted and how dangerous you would become. And he looked at her kind of like gritted on her, like, is this what this all about? And
Mhm.
you haven't learned anything. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm like, oh,
Right, right.
I think, as you said earlier in this podcast today, in this episode, excuse me, today, is that Anakin was on fire. I mean, it was bringing a lot of closure, and like he to me, he was like, I'm more than that. Even though that's what I became, like I said, I redeemed myself, and you should not be stuck on that. Let that go. That was my journey, not yours. So I tell you, Anakin brought the fire. So yeah. Um, let's flow on. I'll take this one. Unanswered questions, and I really don't think this episode there's too many unanswered questions. Only one I actually probably had unanswered is Hera.
Mm,
Is this the beginning of the breakaway from the rebellion? No, because there is another breakaway from the rebellion, because just like anything else, people with good intentions don't learn the past.
mhm,
People who don't know their past are doomed to repeat it. And it seemed like they're making the same bureaucratic mistakes that led to the rise of Palpatine. This whole, do you have any evidence of this? Do you have any evidence of this? I need you here. We got to get a consensus on this kind of stuff. Right is right and wrong is wrong. And sometimes you got to, as a leader, just say, I'm going to go what's right. You do what you got to do. I trust you. All of a sudden now they're going to be ordering Hera back. She's a general. She can't take her own ship and a couple of X-Wing fighters to go investigate or help out Ahsoka. That's crazy. So to me, one of the unanswered questions is, are they going to court martial her? And does she really care? Because sometimes, maybe being a general is not her thing.
mhm.
Being a squadron leader is her thing. Carrying out missions is her thing. So for me, I think the unanswered question is what's going to happen with her when she gets back to the command ship. What about you? Any unanswered questions for you?
So there's a couple. So
Go ahead. Mhm.
the 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 councilwoman that was on the hologram, she
That
seems super shady. She seems super shady. It's something that they don't want uh, Herrera to find. There's something going on. And this actually leads me back to episode one, where we kind of had the feeling that not all, or not even had the feeling, I think that was episode, it was a one or two, but when we found out that there were still people, out there that were still loyal to the empire.
yeah,
No matter how much you try to get these people out and expose them and bring them in for questions, they still have loyalists of the empire in higher positions, and they're trying to make sure that because remember, we still haven't found Palpatine yet. We still don't know that that's lurking out there. Um, we still don't know um, at this point that the dark side still is not totally done yet. So, um, but there's several. The biggest question of all, let's get right down to it, is what the heck happened with Morgan, Balin, and the rest of them. The last episode, we saw them jet off into the atmosphere somewhere, or this, to a whole different part of the galaxy. And now, this whole episode, we still don't know where they are. So that's the biggest episode. That's the
where they
biggest
go?
question.
Unanswered
Where'd
question.
they go?
Right, right,
Where'd
right,
they
right,
go?
right.
Where,
Where they
where,
go?
where, where'd they go? That's the biggest question. So, um, the speaking, I thought that I was trying to figure out how Ahsoka was able to talk to the um the
Purgle, the
the
Purgle.
the Purgle,
Hmm.
but that wasn't a huge unanswered question. I think that um Grogu did with the other beast
Hmm.
back on the Mandalorian.
Right, yeah. Hmm. Hmm.
I think that's just a part of the Force. I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
a lot
Definitely,
of things
definitely,
you're able to
definitely.
get through the Force. But like I said, the biggest question for me is where the Baylor, where did they wind up going to? Where did they
Where they
jump to?
go? Okay. All right. Well, since you again, we're rolling right on into. Let's talk about the cliffhanger. That goes right into the cliffhanger discussion. That is the cliffhanger. You just stole the thunder of the cliffhanger. Where did they jet out? And how is that going to be the vision? And because now it's going to start speeding up again. And I don't, again, like I said last episode, I don't think this could be wrapped up in 3 more episodes. So
Yes.
this is going to be a cliffhanger, and we're going to have a Ahsoka 2. What about any other cliffhangers that you think that you want to discuss?
So we know that Jason is force sensitive.
Definitely.
So an unanswered question that I have is that for what we know, uh, Ahsoka is the main, I guess, the main Jedi or the main person that could help, besides Hu Yang, um, aid in his training. So
Right. Right.
my unanswered question is, how are they going to handle Jason's training?
Mm,
Because do you take him to, since they know he's force sensitive, do you take him to, someone like Leia?
mm.
Or, like, where do you, how do you handle his
Or
training?
or or remember at this time, Luke is starting up his new
His new
what,
temple.
new temple. Yeah. You
His new temple. So
ooh.
where does he get that training from?
Nice. Nice. That's a good one, Phil. Boy, you boy, okay. Well, how does this episode compare with previous episodes? I'll take this one. I I think last week we were geeking out because we had all that action.
Mhm.
Um, I would put last episode as so far is the number one out of five since we do things off the. I would say this is fourth one so far on
Okay.
the. Yeah. What about you? If you had to rank or how I compare, I guess compare to the other episodes. What do you think?
So this one, on a scale of, okay, so we're doing a metrics of five. This one is a
Well, no, 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 no,
four.
no, 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 not ratings. How does it compare to the other ones?
Oh, okay. So
Hmm.
it can, so compared to the other ones, I think that the other episodes were more informative.
Yeah.
They gave us great backstory, uh, great storytelling of world building as well. But
Right.
this episode, I think like I said, this one was more emotional because we're going to get into thoughts and predictions, but this one took us on Ahsoka's journey, her emotional journey, but we didn't get that before. We got
Right.
very closed off. We got the older uh, Ahsoka because the time jump between Rebels to now, she's much older. So I think in this episode we reverted back to her being younger, and we saw not only the immaturity, but we also saw that she has that balance of not good and evil, but she she doesn't hide her feelings from the force. She uses them to make her stronger, and I think she just does that in a way that Anakin didn't do. And I
Right.
think I think in all actuality, that was the message. So this whole time we've been getting to a point where she is still, like I said earlier, she's a Padawan, she's not a master. And I think that we've seen how, even though we saw her as this excellent person that was in control and very wise, but she still had a lot to learn that we're finding out here. So I think that, like I said, we see almost, we think we see a finished product in episode 1 through 4, but here episode 5 comes around and it's like, we're going to kick you back down and
Right.
see how she got to this point and what she
Right.
has to fight to go forward.
Yeah, especially like all I would call, well, in a very literal, no, very a very broad sense of all that baggage she was carrying.
Correct.
So, let's go ahead. I'll let you take the next one. Your theories and predictions was going forward. Give me some of your theories and predictions.
So this is my first theory. I don't think Ahsoka went. You know, I've been reading that she went to the world between worlds.
Right, you said that. Hmm.
I don't think Ahsoka traveled there. And this is, I wanted to get into this in the beginning, but um, I don't, I didn't want to ruin it for this point in time because I think that Ahsoka, I think what happened was, and I think every person within the Force does this. I think that you retreat into yourself, and that is your final test, right?
Right.
So, if so, okay, hear me out. So
Okay.
when Anakin got defeated by Obi-Wan, there was a point in time where he was not only immobile, but he had to recover, right?
Right.
And one of the things that we saw was Anakin in the chamber getting worked on, getting that.
Yep.
What if that was his period? Okay, so but he was obviously unconscious, you know, after that. So what if that period is when? Okay, so then you go to Obi Wan. Obi Wan was fighting. Um, he was fighting and he was fighting Vader, but then you know he chose to draw within himself, and the next time we see him, he's a Force ghost. So I'm just seeing, you know, the only person that really died technically was Qui Gon, because
Right.
even Yoda's, you know, his essence, he floated away. The only one that technically died or was killed was was Qui Gon,
Well,
and he had
let
already
me,
found.
well, actually, you don't see it, and you gotta watch because I'm a geek. I watch it all. You gotta watch the Obi-Wan series. Qui-Gon does come back as a same to Obi-Wan. But go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead. But go
so
ahead. Go ahead.
he comes back as a Force ghost.
Yes, he does. Yes, he
Okay,
does. When he's with if you watch the Obi-Wan tales, Qui-Gon comes back because he has some unanswered questions too that Obi-Wan had to ask him.
so this is the reason why I don't think that this is the world between worlds, because the last time we saw the world between worlds, Ezra pulled Ahsoka out of that battle because she was losing and she was potentially going to die. Correct.
Correct.
So
Correct. Correct.
the world between worlds to me is a place, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, is a place where you can see not only currently but in the past and the future. Because when Ezra was there, we heard, you know, sayings from all phases of Star Wars lore, beginning,
Yes.
present, and future, right?
Yes. Yes.
And he pulled her out of a moment that was already happening.
Yes.
So
Yes.
why is it so if Ahsoka is in the world between worlds, why wouldn't she go to a point where she can make a difference? Why wouldn't she go to a point where she is either pulling her somebody out or jumping in
Good. Okay.
to you know, a different place and time for the Force?
Yeah.
Um, because remember, Palpatine was trying to get it. He was able to try to access that world between worlds realm, but Ahsoka and Ezra kept him out.
Yes.
So I don't think that she was in the world between worlds. I think she just fell into herself and she fought something that was inside of her that she needed to fight to make a conscious decision. And the
Okay.
one thing that was on her mind the most is Anakin. Because, and here's my proof on that. So when we first see Anakin, he's the last we saw of him, he was wearing the same clothes the last time um, Ahsoka saw him. But
Right.
then as the episode goes on, his outfits change. He goes into after the Clone Wars, and then when they're in that battle, he was like, you know, he wasn't even there for that battle. Ahsoka
Yeah.
was, but
Right.
Anakin wasn't.
Right.
So why don't he bring her back there? I think that she just fought the hurdle
Yeah.
in her conscious. She fought that hurdle and won. And when she won, she came out as Ahsoka the
So good
White.
the white, yeah. But actually, you make a sense because to bolster that theory, he is an Anakin. You talking about the Battle of Mandalore, and
Correct.
he's like, "Hey, what is this?" And she says, "The Battle of Mandalore," and he goes, "I don't recognize this." Well, he wouldn't because
Hmm.
he wasn't there, Ahsoka. So that does give credence to what you're saying. This construct was Ahsoka's, and she brought the image
Correct.
of Anakin in to battle the yin and yang in herself.
Correct.
Okay, okay, I'm
Correct.
gonna make sure I understood. So one of my theories is, I think again we went over it again, that Jason's going to be a powerful Jedi.
Hmm.
At such a young age, he's a force wielder. He's in tune with the force, and even Hu Yang tells Carson. Now, remember, Carson is the X-wing fighter, and he's the through thread between this series and Mandalorian,
Hmm.
the Mandalorian.
Hmm.
And Hu Yang's like, they were talking. He said, "What happened?" He said, "Well, some Jedi are so force, sensitive that they have this ability." And he talked about Jason. He said, that his father was a Jedi, and his father was a real force sensitive Jedi. He just didn't get all the formal training because he was part of Order 66, and his trainer died during Order
Mm.
66, so he really didn't get a chance to finish his training either. So I say all that to say is one of my theories is that Jason is going to become trained to be a strong Jedi, and that's going to be, again, you said this, I want to say in episode 3 of our podcast here, is that what makes Star Wars so great is just these worlds just keep building these little nexuses all over the place, and you got Jason and world over this world over here. You got Mandalore over here. You got Andor over here. You got Obi-Wan doing this over there. So it's I like this whole Star Wars world building because it's never ending. It's
Yes.
never ending. So yeah. Um, this is, I asked this right here, and I'm gonna let you take this. I think I know how you're gonna say it, but surprise me in anyway. This right here, this scene
Hmm.
right here,
Hmm.
what did it for you? Right here. Which scene? What happened in this episode that you're like, ooh,
So okay, I opened it. I opened with it.
yep.
I'm ending with it. So people here in First World, if you didn't know, my favorite Star Wars character is Darth Vader. I love villains. I think that most villains have the most villain the best villains have the most interesting backstories.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a huge. I said I was gonna say I'm a huge Vader fan. So to see him enter that portal, but again, his being was Anakin, but his backdrop was Vader, and
Mm-hmm.
then you know he had the red lightsaber, and that was it for me. That right there,
Right cheer. That was the right cheer moment for you.
that's what I've been waiting this 56 minutes and 38 seconds for. I've been waiting for that one shot. A matter of fact, I might go, later on tonight, I might go and make that a screensaver, shoot that, and that's going to be a screensaver. That was a pretty bad scene. That was really good.
Cool. My scene was when Ahsoka came, when she convalesced. She was out, and she was using the Force to find Sabine. But before then, the camera panned with her Mandalorian helmet. It was sitting on
Mm,
that by itself. So now, Serena, wherever Sabine, wherever she is, she doesn't have her helmet, her Mandalorian helmet, and that right here, that tugged at me. That was my right cheer moment. I was like, ooh,
mm,
yeah, doggone it. She doesn't have, because she's good at being a Mandalorian, and so without her helmet, to me, I feel like she probably feel like she's naked. She doesn't have
mm.
the essence of who she really is. So that was my right cheer moment.
Yes.
We go to the next portion of episode rating.
Mm.
And for the audience, once again, we go with the lightsabers, five being the best and zero lightsabers being the worst. So, Phil, how would you rate this episode called Shadow Warrior, episode five, Ahsoka, Shadow Warrior? How many lightsabers do you give it?
So this one I actually give 4.5. The half,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
yes. Again, this episode was very emotional. It took us on a little bit of a roller coaster. Uh, the inner battle that she went through, I think that for it to only have been, I think it was like 58, 59 minutes. It was a lot of content. It was a lot of building of character in that amount of time. So I gave it a 4.5. The half being the only reason I couldn't give this one a 5 is because they blew us out of the water with episode 4.
Yeah.
Um, and also because again, we didn't even see Morgan, Sabine, Braylon. We didn't see any of them this episode, and uh, so that left me wondering. So that knocked it a little bit of a notch to me. But this is definitely my second favorite episode.
Oh, okay. Well, I gave it a 3.5 myself. I gave it a three and a
Ooh.
half.
Okay.
Um, I in it, reason I gave it a 3.5 is because I gave it a full because last episode was a 4 to me, 4.5, excuse me. So I gave this a
Okay.
3.5 because it was not to say it was bad. I'm just
Hmm.
comparing it to so far in episode 4. And just like you
Right.
said, and you actually maybe I might have to not might after we finish recording, I'm gonna go back and watch it again for the emotional concept because you brought a different theory and a different perspective to I didn't even think of that. The
Hmm.
emotion tie behind it. But it is reminiscence of the battles that we all go, that happens within us.
Hmm.
And so yeah, so wow. I mean,
If
so yeah,
you
go ahead, go ahead.
when you go back and watch the watch because by this time I think by the time we're recording this, I think I've probably watched it probably 3 times. But the thing the key to look after for is at the end of their lightsaber battle, look at Anakin's eyes and look at Ahsoka's eyes, and you'll see the transfer of energy.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I said, it was symbolic for us to see Anakin in different stages,
Mm-hmm.
and then if like I say, if you go back and look, you can see him, as a young man between the fact that, he becomes Vader, but Ahsoka remembers him. The last she's also seen of him was when they were dueling, and she
Yeah.
blocked off a portion of his face, and she saw the red eye or the
Mm-hmm.
orange eyes out of the helmet. That's Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like I said, it was just I feel like that was playing on each other. So when you watch it, I was say when you watch it, watch that one part at the
Okay.
end, watch the transfer of energy through the eyes.
Okay. Well, since this the last question that we're going to go through is something that I added for you is
Oh,
hot takes. Remember, you last episode I started adding hot takes. So, what
okay.
is your hot take for this episode?
So, uh, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one. I think a hot take on this episode is I think everybody has a internal battle that they
Yeah.
face,
Yep.
but I think that the end all be all of your internal battle is your own battle. This is not
Mm-hmm.
anyone else's outside of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once you realize that, you're capable of anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and again, I watched Star Wars in a parable sense where um, we've seen it time and time again where you know just Anakin had that same inner battle within himself, but he chose
Mm-hmm.
darkness. You know, he chose turmoil, he chose pain, he chose suffering because he felt that gave him more power.
Yeah.
Whereas Ahsoka had an internal battle, and she felt like being a good person, being herself, gave her her true power.
Mm-hmm.
So, that just, watching this, I think you just have to watch it with a grander scale. Of course, we
Yeah.
watch it for our entertainment purposes,
Yep.
but
Yep.
there's, anytime it comes to, I think being a nerd, you have to find the parallel between what I'm watching, what I'm reading into real life.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that this with Star Wars is definitely parables to that, with the dark and light side, and you want to be a rebellion, do you want to join a particular group of people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just has
Yeah.
different parallels to it.
No. And you know what? So my hot take is kind of you kind of stole it from me. My hot take is just that too. Is the inner this whole episode was the inner battle that we humans deal with. You can't get away from, you can hide from everyone else, but you can't hide from yourself. And your fears, your emotions, and what you bring into a scene, what you bring into a battle, what you bring into a situation. And that was my hot take, and it was, again, I not I was thinking about, I think I am going to do it. You gave me a good thought on, let's move away from the entertainment portion, because what happened was I got lost in the entertainment. What I
Mm.
mean by, because I was so into, okay, what was the Anakin represented in the whole 9 yards, that I just totally missed, or didn't avail myself the opportunity to to feel the emotional arc of this episode. So thanks a lot for that. I really appreciate that, Phil. That was really good. That was really good. So we wrap it up here, and first of all, I want the audience to know, we are expanding, and now we're pushing out this particular episodes. Now will be also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, so you can not only see it on YouTube, which you're probably looking at right now, but you can also listen to it as you're driving down the road, or walking, or anything like that. So check us out there. And also check out the other channels on the Hot Nerd Network. Hot Nerd Sid and Hot Nerd Mom are there, out there, making content, and we have a couple of people doing the power. So there's a couple of different episodes or different networks on the, excuse me, a couple of different shows on the Hot Nerd Network.
We
So
got whatever you like. Whatever you
yeah,
like, we got.
we got whatever you like. So again, thank you guys for liking us. Please subscribe to the particular podcast that we're doing, and leave any comments. Did we answer some of your questions that you guys had? Did we miss something, or do you like us, or do you want us to change anything? Or just leave any comments, or thumbs up if you like it too. So yeah, I'm. So again, this is the Hot Nerd Network. The first word. I'm Phillip Parker.
I'm PV Parker.
And I'm gonna steal from you this time. May the force be with you, and see you next time. Oh.
See you guys.
Okay.